It was supposed to be the perfect weekend getaway. A few friends, a remote cabin in the woods, and a break from the chaos of our lives. We had all been looking forward to this trip for months. As we drove up the winding mountain road, the sun was setting, casting long shadows through the dense forest. There was an air of excitement in the car, with laughter and music filling the space. The cabin was everything we had hoped for: rustic, secluded, and with a breathtaking view of the valley below. We spent the first evening around the fire pit, toasting marshmallows and sharing stories. The forest was alive with the sounds of nocturnal creatures, and the starry sky above was clear and endless. It was around midnight when the first odd thing happened. Emily, always the adventurous one, decided to take a walk in the woods. She promised she wouldn't go far and would be back in 10 minutes. But when 20 minutes passed, we started to worry. We called out for her, but there was no response. Grabbing our flashlights, we ventured into the forest to find her. After a few minutes of searching, we heard her scream. It was a blood-curdling sound that sent chills down my spine. We ran towards it, our flashlights cutting through the darkness. We found her near a small clearing, her face pale and eyes wide with terror. She was muttering incoherently, pointing towards something we couldn't see. We tried to calm her down and brought her back to the cabin. Emily couldn't explain what she had seen. She kept saying it was a shadow, but not like any shadow she'd ever seen before. It moved on its own, she claimed, and it had eyes, glowing red eyes that watched her. We chalked it up to her overactive imagination and too much horror movie binge-watching. The next day, the atmosphere was tense. Emily refused to leave the cabin, and the rest of us were on edge. We decided to stick together and avoid the woods. But as night fell, things took a turn for the worse. We were sitting in the living room when the power went out. The cabin was plunged into darkness, and an eerie silence settled over us. Then we heard it, a low, guttural growl coming from outside. It was unlike any animal sound I'd ever heard. We huddled together, our flashlights the only source of light. The growling grew louder, closer. Something was circling the cabin. Tom, the bravest of us, decided to take a look. He grabbed a kitchen knife and slowly opened the front door. We all held our breath as he stepped outside. The growling stopped, replaced by an oppressive silence. Then we heard Tom scream. It was a sound of pure terror and agony. We rushed to the door, but Tom was gone. There were no signs of a struggle, no blood, just his flashlight lying on the ground, flickering weakly. Panic set in. We barricaded ourselves inside the cabin, convinced that whatever was out there had taken Tom. The night dragged on, each minute feeling like an hour. The growling returned, this time from all sides of the cabin. It was as if multiple creatures were out there, hunting us. We could hear scratching at the walls, and occasionally, the sound of something heavy moving outside. Morning couldn't come fast enough. As the first light of dawn broke through the trees, the noises stopped. We cautiously stepped outside, hoping to find some sign of Tom. What we found instead were claw marks on the cabin walls and deep, unnatural tracks in the dirt. With no sign of Tom, and Emily in a near catatonic state, we decided to leave. We packed up quickly and drove down the mountain, our hearts heavy with fear and sorrow. We reported Tom's disappearance to the authorities, but they found no trace of him or the creatures we described. To this day, I can't explain what happened at that cabin. Emily never recovered from the trauma, and the rest of us drifted apart, unable to cope with the horror we experienced. I still have nightmares about that weekend, haunted by the growling and Tom's final, terrified scream. Sometimes, late at night, I hear a low growl outside my window, and I wonder if the creatures from the cabin have followed me home.
Please like, share, and follow for more.